And I actually like Bo Branson. We've spoken maybe once, but I mean, obviously, I disagree. So, a few more quotes here.
Now I want you guys to notice something really quick. Notice how he skips the beginning of the passage, those first couple words, and you'll find out later it's because they can't read logical
Quotes here.
notation.
Yeah.
Very interesting. He says this is page 242 and 249. He says that Gregory's solution to the LPT and the keys to the generality of his position with respect to all of our predicates and descriptions of God, not merely God alone, but Creator, Savior, Lord, since Gregory holds that counting by agent nouns hinges not on, or at least not at least only, distinctions between hypostases engaged in energeia, but between token energeia being engaged in by hypostases. And they're just, again, we count gods by the relation of being single tokened with respect to Godding, not classical identity.
So what they just read there were two separate excerpts from two separate pages of Bo Branson's dissertation. As you can see, the bottoms are cut off because he chose to conveniently cut it off there. Now let's put the page on the screen and let's zoom out from what actually the rest of the page says so we can get the full context. And as you'll see, Bo Branson is not giving a metaphysical defense here. As he says explicitly, he is translating Gregory's semantics into what he thinks implicitly he would mean if it were to be translated into a formal language. Now, of course, because they both can't read formal language, they take the God-ing as some sort of, metaphysical framework, some sort of metaphysical structure. What they don't see is that Bo Branson is translating the informal language into a formal language, which is why they chose to skip the beginning of the last paragraph, because they don't understand what's going on because they cannot read it. And you'll see this confusion further in the next clip.
So, okay, number one, clearly this is charged metaphysically. Obviously. I mean, the next thing I want to get into this with you is that these guys seem to think that they can call this logical if it's logical in a strict formal sense. Certainly you've heard that before, right? And this is the type of...
That's their new technique, yeah.
Yeah, right. So I think this language should clearly communicate that there is so much metaphysics doing all the work in this, and does it have any basis in reality?
So they say this is clearly metaphysically charged, and Mike says that Trinitarians acting like us solving the formal issue, or purely the formal issue, solves the LPT. So let's put it up on the screen and let's see what Bo Branson actually says himself. If you read from the top, he says, "My focus will be on the logical problem of the Trinity." And if you keep reading down, he says a solution to the LPT is not necessarily a solution to the metaphysical problem on the Trinity. But second, on the other hand, it would still be a major embarrassment to the anti-Trinitarian if the logical argument against the Trinity were to fail. Now, let's read further down. "I believe that the doctrine of the Trinity, or at least the particularly problematic part of it, can be shown to be consistent using the rules of ordinary logic. That result alone is significant in that it decisively shifts the debate from the level of formal consistency, the LPT, to the level of implicit consistency, the metaphysical problem of the Trinity." Now, if you keep reading down, he says, but this, of course, is a distinct question from the LPT. He's referencing the implicit metaphysical consistencies right above this paragraph. And he says, "I will not attempt to prove that no such additional proposition exists that could show the doctrine of the Trinity to be implicitly inconsistent in one of the above ways." So he is clearly saying here that the logical problem of the Trinity is the purely formal logical issue. This is exactly what Jake and Mike are saying is not the issue, or purely the issue, in solving the LPT. But Bo Branson himself says here in this paper, in this dissertation, that the LPT is the formal issue. As you can see here, he says what the anti-Trinitarian presents it as is a simple matter of logic, right? It is not presented as the metaphysical implicit issues. And he says that he is, in this dissertation, focusing on the formal issue. So this should show that Jake and others have conveniently switched the subject from logical in the very strict sense that the LPT has been ran in the literature for so long, and is now emphasizing that it's just not a matter of logic, it's actually metaphysics is what we mean by this. But actually, if you go into some of Jake's old debates, he is talking about logic.
Nah, the meat riding is crazy. But I'll tell you what.
Yeah, so listen. So listen, you said I slandered you when I said that you reject classical logic. So do you reject classical logic?
He even does it in this video, in this interview with Mike, where they start talking about Leibniz's law, and then they start talking about the Trinity being unable to be formalized using Leibniz's law. So he conveniently is trying to shift his position. His earlier position was that it was just purely formal. Now he is trying to argue that it is not purely formal because he's been losing the debate. He's been getting exposed for not knowing logic and not being able to read simple formulas.
I have a simple example that I think demonstrates this. So if I said all birds are made of cheese and I'm a bird, therefore I'm made of cheese, this is actually formally consistent because the conclusion follows from the premises. Now, here's the thing. The premises aren't true, right? Birds aren't made of cheese and I'm not a bird. Silly example, but I think demonstrates the point.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, that's exactly what Nick tried to do in our debate. And, you know, some people may have been, how can you say, persuaded or, you know, people who don't know too much about the subject might think, oh, yeah, Nick was making a brilliant point or something like that. But it really wasn't, because what your previous example showed is like, people don't understand. You could make anything pretty much formally consistent, right? No matter how ridiculous it is. That doesn't mean that it's true or that it even has any semblance of truth to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's basically what he did. And it's like we were having two different debates, and that's probably partially my own fault because...
Yes, Jake, it was your own fault because you didn't even know what a model was.
Model. In classical logic, what is a model?
Model is a set of premises that are being used to describe a particular doctrine.
What?
When Mike puts this syllogism up on the screen, and it is a syllogism, it is formally valid. It is consistent in that sense, meaning that if the premises are true, it necessarily follows to the conclusion. Now, because he did not know what a model is, and he still doesn't clearly here, he doesn't know that he is equivocating on two different types of consistency, two fundamentally distinct types of consistency. There's consistency or validity in the form of a syllogism, where the premises necessarily follow to the conclusion. And then there's consistency in the model theoretic sense, which Bo Branson was addressing in his dissertation, and which Nick was addressing in his debate against you, which means that there is no contradiction in the model, and that all sentences of the model come out true according to the theory provided. He doesn't know what the second one means, which is why he, in his debate against Nick, defined a model as a set of premises that describe some theory or whatever.
In classical logic, what is a model?
Model is a set of premises that...
That is not what a model is, but of course he's confused. He thinks that is what it is clearly because he agrees with Mike here in the example, which is not analogous.